Exactly a year ago to the date that I'm recording this exact video, I released my first ever video with the Rideshare Guy. And it was so well received that I've been blessed with the opportunity to continue making content for the Rideshare Guy since. And now that a year has passed, more new drivers have flooded the rideshare scene, ready to make even more mistakes than my last video. Well, before we allow those mistakes to happen, let's cover 3 more mistakes we see new Uber drivers making in 2025. Hey everyone, it's Kian for the Rideshare Guy, pronounced Kian. And guys, the real first mistake when it comes to being an Uber driver that we see new Uber drivers making is not being subscribed to the Rideshare Guy. Guys, we make videos all throughout the week. Every single week we have live streams, we have basically podcasts as well. So guys, make sure you are subscribed to the Rideshare Guy and make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Okay, let's get to the actual mistakes now. Mistake number 1, at least as of the last year that we've been seeing new Uber drivers making, is waiting too long for your Uber passengers. And what I mean by this is, let's say you accept a ride, you arrive to the pickup spot, and they say, yeah, I'll be ready in a minute. And then a minute passes, and then 2, and then 3, and you get the point. And eventually, the clock has ticked. It's let you know that, hey, you can cancel this ride, and we'll give you a cancellation fee, and you're still there for some reason, waiting for the passenger. Now look, there are some scenarios where it is just like unfortunate timing, or they just have like a last second thing that happened. You know, we're human, I get it. But there are a lot of people who just don't understand time management and are perfectly willing to waste your time if you're willing to just sit there and wait, hoping that, I don't know, I guess just waiting there will get you some good luck. Spoiler, it won't. All it's going to do is, well, as you already know, waste your time. And there are a lot of passengers that will type in the app, hey, if you'll wait an extra minute or 2 for me to get here for this ride instead of canceling, I'll give you an extra tip. I'll tip you in the app. Little tip here for you. When Uber passengers tell you that, that's a fun little code way of saying that they're not tipping you. They just want you to wait. And I know, last surprising thing in the world, an Uber passenger lying so that the driver continues to do the ride. But seriously, a lot of new Uber drivers fall for this, where they think that genuinely being a decent person, or like just a good person in general, and waiting for the passenger will actually grant them some good luck, or will actually get them an extra tip. And hey, you know what? Maybe in some cases that will happen. Maybe they will give you an extra $5 or something, but you also have to do the math there and consider if that $5 extra for an extra 10 minutes of waiting is even really worth it. Which actually perfectly ties into mistake number 2 that we see a lot of Uber drivers making. And admittedly, this is gonna be a bit of a hot take. I may actually get some veteran drivers on my case for this. But at least in my opinion, the second mistake we see all the time is waiting too long for the good Uber rides. Now, as an Uber Premier driver myself, that's one of the luxury services for Uber, I make this mistake all the time when it comes to driving for Uber, where if I just sit and wait an extra 10 minutes, maybe I'll hit a good spike period where I'll get a really good Premier ride to the airport or something like that. And usually all that ends up doing is giving me false hope, impossibly high standards, and, well, no money because I sat there and didn't get any rides. Or in the alternate case where you're not like me, as in terms of the Premier status, and you're just doing regular Uber X, and you're just hitting decline, and just saying, well, you know what? Eventually, Uber is gonna give me a good ride. They're not gonna give you a good ride. Or hell, if they are going to give you a good ride, it's going to be in line most of the time with when they give all of the other good rides that they generally would. It's just a timing thing. It's just a market thing. And I have a feeling a lot of drivers don't like hearing this because it's so ingrained in their strategy and they've stuck with it for so long that hearing it isn't fun. So this isn't even just a new Uber drivers thing. This is just an Uber drivers thing, but more specifically towards new Uber drivers. And I get it. Big numbers look exciting, but at the same time, you have to once again do the math there and factor it in. You know, if I take a $4 ride that's going literally around the block and back, you know, it's only $4. I have a good chance of getting a tip there, you know, if I provide high quality service, depending on, of course, the market conditions. And as well, I don't have to drive a seriously far way to just get back to my hotspot. So, you know, it's maybe a 10-minute break between declining rides to take a really short ride and then back to where you were. you know, maybe it's 10 minutes, maybe it's 20 minutes, but it's the same analogy. Does it make more sense to actually just sit there and wait for 10 to 20 minutes to hopefully get a good ride? Now, this at the end of the day is going to come down to understanding your market long term, understanding your hotspots, understanding the timings of your market, because I can't say in its entirety that it's a horrible, awful thing, but more often than not, you're leading yourself into false hope that you will eventually get a good ride, when the reality is what you're getting is probably the best you're going to get for a while. And like I said, this is probably going to be the most divisive topic that I have in this entire video. And you know what? For the Uber drivers who are ready to flame me in the comments, actually go ahead and leave a comment down below telling me, you know, whether or not you live by this strategy of waiting too long for the good rides, or if you take the short rides until the good rides come along. Leave a comment down below, because I actually want to hear from you guys as to what your strategy is around this. All right, mistake number 3 that we see Uber drivers making, and this one has been everywhere. And this isn't exclusively new drivers, but this is primarily new drivers. In last year's video where I talked about mistakes, my last mistake, I believe, in that video was talking too much to your Uber passengers. Well, in contrast to that, for this year, mistake number 3 is not talking to your passengers at all. Now, here's the thing, Uber drivers. Hello does not count as talking to your passengers. You have to have a little bit more than that. And I'm actually going to describe what I generally do. So when a passenger gets in my car, I'll ask them how they're doing. We'll have, you know, a little bit of small talk. If it's warranted, I'll double check to make sure that the location as the destination spot on the Uber app is accurate. I'll double check to make sure the music or the air temperature, the AC, something like that is comfortable for them. And after that, if they stop talking to me, I get that as the memo that the conversation's over and it's time to drive. But a lot of the time, I will get people asking questions either about the car, either about just, you know, the situation, being an Uber driver, how long I've done it, you know, basic questions to just try to have some small talk, because people do like having conversations. So if you don't even let them in the door, other than quite literally letting them in the physical door of your car, you're going to see a lot of disappointed passengers in the back of your car. And chances are, for those Uber drivers, you probably already have. And learning how to properly talk and when to properly talk to your Uber passengers is so important, especially if you want to factor in tips as part of your income as an Uber driver. It's really important to ensure that you're communicating with them in the ways that they want to be communicated to. And sometimes it's really hard to figure out where the line is there. That's why I say, you know, just the first couple basic questions. If they stop engaging after that, you turn up the music a little bit, you turn up the AC, do whatever you gotta do, and you do the ride. But if they keep engaging, then obviously have the conversation with them. It's just something that takes a little bit of fine tuning, you know, maybe a little bit of trial and error over time. So figure it out for yourself and, you know, see what works best for you. And that wraps everything up. Those are the 3 mistakes we see Uber drivers making most often, at least specifically the new Uber drivers coming into 2025. But I actually want to know in the comments down below, what were your guys' big first mistakes as new Uber drivers? I mean, all of the ones I've listed are all of the ones I was very much guilty of, so you kind of already have a good idea as to what I started out with. But guys, let me know down in the comments below what your first mistakes, quote unquote, were as an Uber driver and how you learned to combat them. Alongside that, because you're already down there, hey, make sure you hit the like button on this video if you enjoyed watching it, because obviously the YouTube algorithm, it's a tricky beast, but it does seem to like when you like the video, so it really helps us out. And just telling from the landscape of everything I talked about in this video, you can tell that Uber is a little bit more complex than it may seem, and there generally is a lot of pros and cons when you really weigh out what Uber as a side hustle and a gig app actually is. And as a matter of fact, I made an entire video talking about the pros and cons of being an Uber driver, and you can check it out over there. But for the time being, that's gonna be all from me for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and stay cool.